Hey guys, what's up? A beta-based version for the Legion Go has already made its way over at the Reddit community, and this version adds 6GB option for dedicated GPU VRAM. So I went ahead and installed it on my unit to test out the best option to use. And in this video, I'll compare all 4 modes in 10 different AAA titles running in 3 graphics presets, which are low, medium, and high, at the resolution of 800 pixel. I tried higher resolution like 1920 by 1200 pixel and it had low FPS in most AAA titles without upscaling with RSR and FSR. I chose to not use any upscaling to better understand performance at native resolution. I also want to note that throughout this video, at the end of every game section, there is some performance analysis comparing and discussing the results. Let's get started with Dead Space. So with the test done, let's have a look at the charts. At low settings, 4G shows the lowest performance, with both average FPS and the loss. Meanwhile, 8G is taking the lead, so it's pretty comparable to 6G and 3G, could be within margin of error. If we look at frame pacing, we see 4G again with lowest less than 2 ms and more of less than 8 ms and beyond. Shifting focus to medium settings, the 3G is the one who is underperforming. Frame pacing at this setting is quite similar across the board, again with 8G marginally a tad ahead. However, things start to change as we increase to high settings. Here a separation starts to show up. 6G and 8G are closely tied for the lead. On the other hand, 3G and 4G lag in both average and lows. This result is likely due to the increased VRAM demands at higher settings. So it's clear for Dead Space that 6G is at least preferable, especially if you want to increase settings a bit to enjoy the spooky environment in its real. Let's close this up and head over to our next game, which is Elden Ring. Let's go. In Elden Ring, the results seem to not differ whatever you choose for VRAM. As you saw, even at high settings, it uses less than 3 GB of VRAM. Frame pacing is pretty much the same. It's not GPU VRAM demanding title as far as I can tell. So for Elden Ring, whatever you choose for VRAM allocation, it wouldn't matter that much even at 3G. So let's go now to the next title, The Witcher 3. In Witcher 3, at low settings, all configurations seem to be doing equally the same. But taking a look at frame pacing, you will find all of them to suffer badly. Instead, at medium settings, this time the 3G is least on low FPS. As for the rest, they are pretty much the same. Frame pacing is still doing badly, with a majority of less than 8 ms. At high settings, 3G is again the least performing one, while 8G is doing consistently good. In frame pacing, nothing has changed, so that seems to be the norm. I will say for Witcher 3, choosing anything from 4G to 8G is fine, just not 3G. We'll now check a fresh release title, Assassin's Creed Mirage. Assassin's Creed Mirage performance is pretty much the same at low settings for all of them, but frame pacing shows different story, with 3G being the lowest. This data is reliable as I use the integrated benchmark tool. It's rendering exactly the same scene. Now going to medium settings, again 3G has bad loss. Now at high settings, we'll start to see trimmed results, with both 3G and 4G behind. 6G and 8G are in higher class with better average FPS and loss. Even frame pacing confirms this. So I will say for Assassin's Creed Mirage, for low settings, 4G is good enough, but at high settings, it's advisable to use 6G or 8G. We'll now go to an interesting one found in Borderlands 3. Here we are. At low settings, 3G did significantly lower than the rest with notable less average FPS and in the lows. From 4G and above, it's quite better. Frame pacing also shows 3G being the worst. Switching to medium settings, this time 3G is the best out of the bunch. And even by cranking settings to high, yet gives 3G being the best out of other configurations. Through this, I now understand something quite important. Since we increase graphics settings, the higher VRAM we allocated to GPU is being unutilized for many reasons like being limited by CPU or the GPU itself. And since that, the memory being allocated for VRAM is without use and in fact causing performance hurt since it could have been used as RAM memory. It's my takeaway from this test. We'll now test Forza Motorsport to see how it goes. In Forza Motorsport, at low settings, performance seemed to be similar across all configs. Even at medium settings, nothing quite changed. However, at high settings, a bit of difference shows up. If you saw, GPU VRAM usage for 3G was limited to 3GB, while for 8G, VRAM usage was over 6GB. Yet we saw no performance change. If that proves something, is that increasing VRAM allocation might not do much if other parts are bottlenecking performance. With all that difference in VRAM usage, we got the same performance even at 3G. Now we can move to the next game we have, that is Horizon Zero Dawn. Running Horizon Zero Dawn at low settings gives quite mixed results, with 6G significantly better than 3G for comparison, with better average by about 8 FPS and a vast difference in lows, as you can clearly see. Taking a look at frame pace also indicates that 6G being overall the best. But if we change settings to medium, things normalize and we pretty much get similar results on all of them. Even at high settings, it's more or less the same. So I would say for Horizon Zero Dawn, it really comes down to the graphics settings you will choose. As confusing as it may sound, but I will say 4 to 6G is ideal for this one. So the next game we have is Metro Exodus. at low settings, while 4G was equal in average and 1% FPS, but the 0.1% was quite lower. Switching to medium settings, this time it's the same for all options, even frame pacing equally the same, as well as high settings. So I will say that in this specific title, again we do not see much worse to note here, so we can get over to the next one we have, that is Cyberpunk 2077. We are going to see a surprise, so don't miss it out. In Cyberpunk 2077, all of them did pretty much the same, running at both low and medium settings. However, at high settings, things dramatically change, and you might have seen it too, that throughout the benchmark, it was extremely stuttering at 3G. That's the first game I've seen with stutter due to low VRAM allocation. Putting it to 4G immediately addressed that issue, but still with lower 0.1% FPS. So for Cyberpunk 2077, at least 6G is quite the choice to maximize performance at high settings. It was kinda cool to see that behavior, but we are going to see yet another surprise in Red Dead Redemption 2. You may not believe what you will see. Let's check it together. So here we are. You might have seen that throughout the benchmark, VRAM usage was still sitting at 500 MB even at high settings, which actually made me wonder what's going on. What I can clearly tell that this game doesn't use dedicated GPU VRAM, but instead take from shared memory. Even if you look at the charts, you will see that 3G being significantly on top, with 4G in second place and leaving 8G at the bottom. In frame pacing, it's reflecting on that too. Using medium settings, it's yet the same. You will see the trend with least dedicated VRAM being on top and most dedicated VRAM at the bottom. In high settings as well. That's quite interesting scenario, as one might think they are actually giving the game more when they are just driving performance to the bottom unknowingly. If we look at different VRAM allocation, you will see at 3G, shared GPU memory is actually 6.3, making total of 9.3 GB, while for example at 8G, shared becomes 3.8 to total of 11.8 GB for GPU. So the takeaway is that when you dedicate too much memory to GPU without putting it to use, you are actually going to hurt performance because it's being dedicated to the GPU but unutilized in a useful manner when it could have been more important as RAM for the CPU. Honestly, before doing this comparison, I was quite always sure that 6 to 8G is the right choice, but I now feel convinced that at certain instances, actually 3G could be the best choice. I would say that 4G is a good balance between performance for both GPU and CPU. Probably that's why they assigned it at 4G by default. Of course, if we had over 16 GB memory, it would have been a different story. But for now, I would recommend allocating 4 to 6 GB, and that's more than enough. It's kinda risky to use 8G as you may degrade performance in many titles unaware. I really hope this video gave some useful insights. Please let me know in the comments if you would like me to test other games too. And by the way, if you are interested to improve your experience on the Legion Go, check this video out that I did for the Aero GLI a while ago. All techniques explained should work on the Legion Go too, and especially that there is a tool you could use to have more free memory and potentially improve overall performance of the system. So be sure to check it out. At the end, I would like to ask you if you found this video useful and fun, give it a like and subscribe to Techosaur to be up to date with latest content. I have a lot of good stuff planned and hope to have you aboard. See you on the next one.